So, what does the research say? The effectiveness of training in organizations. A meta-analysis was done by Arthur et al. In 2003, I believe. And what they wanted to do was, there wasn't a lot of literature on effective training methods. So they compiled a lot of evidence, brought it all together, and did a meta-analysis. So we know a meta-analysis is bringing in several research experiments, studies that were done, and they did a review of all of that. Now, they really wanted to find out what's the best training method. And so several different types of things occurred in this meta-analysis, but we're going to focus on skills training because that's what we're talking about today. The skill really needs to match up with the type of training. I remember when I was very young, I was a food server years and years ago. And I didn't realize I was a trainer because I didn't really have any formal training in how to train others. But my boss would say, hey, so-and-so is going to start tomorrow, and they're going to follow you around for 3 or 4 days. And so in that 3 or 4 days, they followed me around. They stayed at my hip, and they observed everything that I did. And that was basically behavioral modeling. After 3 or 4 days, hopefully they took enough notes and they learned enough from what I did. I wasn't really given any instruction on how to actually train during this time. But nowadays we have the computers, and back then we didn't have anything. Everything was done manually. It was back in the 80s. So again, that shows you how old I am. The behavioral modeling is very good for learning specific things like equipment or anything that requires you to actually do something. There's a motor skills involved. So if you want to become a surgeon, you're going to observe someone doing a surgery. Or as in my case, I spent 18 years in ophthalmology, and I had to learn how to use phoropters. And the phoropter is when you go to the eye doctor, they ask you, is it better 1 or better 2? They move dials in the machine that they bring up to your face. It's called a phoropter. And they ask you questions about what looks good to you on the screen. You read an eye chart. This particular type of equipment required not only psychomotor skills, but it also required you to have some knowledge. You had to learn about the anatomy of the eye, how light reflects off the cornea, and how the eye basically allows us to see. And you had to know those things. You had to know the mathematics involved in refracting. So there was knowledge and cognitive in addition to behavioral modeling that is combined together. So matching the skill to the task is the important point. Matching the type of training to the skill or task is the important point.